tue, ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey, hey, hey.
Welcome back to the B and Me podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. Another jam-packed great episode we're gonna have for y'all tonight. But fellas, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. As you can tell, I'm a little tired, but I'm here. I'm here and doing well, guys.
Hey man, we're gonna get straight into it. All of the coaching positions in the NFL have been filled. We are going to do our Rank That Higher segment. Starting off, Clint Kubiak, even though currently he is with the Seahawks, they said it's basically a done deal. Once they probably go win that Super Bowl, which we will talk about later in the episode, Clint Kubiak to the Raiders. What grade you give that hire?
I'd give it an A. Like, he's one of the up and coming coordinators right now. I know they always talk about these different trees. Like, he comes from the Kubiak family, and they know how to run an offense. His father was the Super Bowl winning coach of the Broncos back in the day. So, yeah, I like the hire. It's probably the best position to go after you hired an older coach in Pete Carroll. Time to get some youth in there. A guy who's more in touch with how the game's moving nowadays.
I agree. I think it's an A higher too. If you're bringing in Fernando Mendoza and you don't have offensive line, you got to rebuild all these pieces around him. The one thing you want to have in place is a really good head coach that can design offense and get this guy easy completions in adverse situations, and he's going to do that. He's going to make a tough situation a bit easier for Fernando Mendoza. So I really like the hire a lot. I like Kubiak a lot. I thought that there were a few teams that could have benefited from hiring him instead of the guys that they hired, like the Steelers, for example, like a young mind and a fresh start in your organization. And Kubiak's a coach's son, right? A legendary coach's son. So, it's in the blood a bit, and he's done a great job in Seattle. So, yeah, I think you can't get much better than that if you're the Raiders. And for that guy to fall into your lap, right? You didn't fill your hire, your opening first. So for him to fall into your lap, that's a great job by Tom Brady and those guys over there. But I think they're in really good hands. They just got to fill out their roster and go about it the right way and get good players in the building. So that's the challenge. You're kind of starting from square one, but at least they're going to have their quarterback, and that's what you need to start there before you can do anything else, right? So I think they're in a good spot. A for me.
Now, you mentioned Mendoza, right? A name that's been shooting up the charts as of late is Nussmeier. Do you think there is any way, a possibility that the Raiders might fall in love with Nussmeier doing some workouts, interviews, or is it still going to be Mendoza?
I think it'll still be Mendoza. I think there's not going to be much that can happen that's going to change Mendoza being the number one pick. But I do think Garrett Nussmeier is probably not being discussed as a first round pick right now, but I think he will be when it's all said and done. I always felt like he had a chance to be QB1 in the class. Obviously, it went really badly over at LSU. They finally got tired of Brian Kelly, and he was hurt. He wasn't healthy and playing through some stuff, and his performance suffered. But I remember I was raving about him in last year's class when the Giants needed to get a quarterback before they took Jackson Dart. I was telling y'all, hey, this guy throws the best anticipation I've seen a quarterback throw with at that level for in a long time. He throws the ball before guys are open. He's just really good at that. He has a knack for the game, an incredible feel for the game, and that's what you're hearing coming out of the Senior Bowl right now about him. That's all the reviews about Garrett Nussmeier. So I have full belief that by the time this is all said and done, people are going to look at him a bit more favorably than they're looking at the quarterback from Alabama. All right, as well. So I think that we're gonna have a really tough battle for QB2. But at the end of the day, he's gonna be QB2 in the class. And I don't think he's a bad consolation prize for any team like the Jets, like whoever. If you want to take a stab at a quarterback this year, that's probably a good place to go as well. So I feel pretty confident Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a good career. He's one of those guys that's going to be a better pro than he was college player.
Yeah, Nussmeier, he definitely looked really good at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he won MVP. He looked good in the game. It's tough playing in that Senior Bowl when you really have a few days to build some chemistry with some of the guys. But he showed what we saw in 2024, which was a guy who was arguably a top 10 pick in the NFL if he would have come out that year. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where he lands. I know coaches are gonna have a lot of questions about how this season went and why it went that way. I don't think he'll be a first round pick. I think he's more of a sliding up that day two route. which yeah, it's a nice consolation if you don't like Ty Simpson in the first round, which I think he'll be a first round pick. All the intangibles are there for that kid. But yeah, Nussmeier, size is going to be an issue. He's like 200 pounds. Can he take the beating in the NFL? We'll see. Like, we'll see. But he looked good at the combine. That's a good start. I mean, combine, Senior Bowl.
Next hire, one of the great offensive minds that people were talking about, he ends up going. Mike Lafleur will be the Cardinals' next head coach. What grade would you give that hire?
I give it an A on my side here. I think that's an A higher, Mike LaFleur. Anybody from that McVay tree, I feel pretty good about. And I think obviously you're looking at a complete rebuild in Arizona, right? From the quarterback position, you're talking about the guys that are coming there and make the guys' lives easier on the offensive side of the football. I like it for all the reasons I like Kubiak to the Raiders. It's the same thing. I'd be a hypocrite to say anything different here. I thought Mike LaFleur was really good with the Jets. I thought they performed well. They overperformed as an offense when he was the coordinator there. And I think the Jets have been reeling since they let him go as an offense, anyways. So having that guy in your building is only a strength. He is 38 years old. He has a lot to learn about leading a franchise, and I guess that's the challenge in all this. Is the fact that he has to kind of figure out the ins and outs of how to lead a staff, how to lead grown men. That's going to be a challenge for him. But McVay was the same way when he came in. I'm not saying it's going to work because McVay worked, but it's a chance I'd take if I were them. Is what I'm saying. The job doesn't have a whole lot of appeal to it right now. It's really hard to get a quarterback. It doesn't have a lot of appeal for the same reasons the Brown job didn't have a lot of appeal. But I think if you're going to take a chance on a coach, that's the kind of chance you should take on a guy like that, a young, bright mind. That's the way you do it. So I think it's a great hire for them, and that we'll see what they do.
Yeah, the Michael Floor hire, that was a solid one. I'll give it an A too. I'm curious to see if he wants to move forward with Kyler Murray, if they want to look at other options at quarterback. He doesn't have to be tied to this guy. Whether they trade him in the offseason early on for any of the teams that are looking for a quarterback, he could make a bunch of different moves. But he's a great play caller.
Hey, another hire that happened. We talked about the Michael Floor. Another head coach, Todd Monken for the Cleveland Browns. What grade does that hire get?
I'd give it a C, C minus, just because I don't think this is the direction they wanted to go. This felt like, damn, we've exhausted all these options. Most of these head coach candidates said, you know what, this organization is too toxic. I'm gonna go back to my team or keep weighing my options elsewhere. Um, and they settled with Todd Monken. It was a toxic way of finding a head coach. They tried to force Jim Schwartz on all the candidates, saying that's the DC. We're not letting you hire your own, but that's you can hire everybody else, but that's the guy. Then that fell through because it turns out he wanted to be the head coach, and then they hire Monken, and he says, "I'm out. I'm not staying here. I wanted to be the head coach. You guys kind of did me dirty." It feels like they sort of promised him once they got through all those candidates canceling that, all right, we're gonna hire you as the head coach. Then all of a sudden, Monken sort of came out of nowhere, and now he's the head coach. I mean, he's a good offensive coordinator, calls great plays. Although Ravens fans might think otherwise, the offense was top five for the most part of his tenure in Baltimore. So you can complain all you want. It's just he's a first time head coach now in his 60s. Does he have what it takes to turn this franchise around? I don't know. I'm curious to see how an offense, run by Monken and Shador works out. Because I think that's the best course of action is to see what you have with Shador, give him a full year, and then hey, I wouldn't wish Arch to go to Cleveland, but if you stink, there's quarterbacks in the draft next year. It's a better quarterback draft, quote unquote. So Yeah, C minus.
Hey, Greg, I want to ask you this. Speaking of Shador, right? Let's say they go that route. They give another year for Shador. What do the Browns need to do to better help him with roster moves this offseason? What would actually help Shador? They got Harold Fanning right there at tight end. You can see they got the chemistry there. You got the running back situation going well. What else do they need for Shador to really perform well next year?
I think they need Shador to get better, first and foremost. I think it's more about what he can do for them than what they can do for him. Obviously, they can get better on the offensive line. They're getting older on the offensive line. But the weapons piece of it is covered with Judkins and Fannin and Judy's okay, right? He's serviceable, good player. So I think they have like solid offensive players in place, but the quarterback play is the problem. And if you look at like just the raw stats, and I'm not a raw stats guy, forget that. Like, forget I even said it. If you watch the game, you watch him play. There are some highs to Shador Sanders, but there's some lows too, right? Where he's just not kind of reading what's happening fast enough on the field and making quick enough decisions and getting the ball out of his hands on time. It kind of feels like sometimes, and it's happened in Colorado where you're trying to make the superhero play all at once and you're trying to escape people, which you can't really do with your athletic profile. You struggle with that kind of stuff. So I would say he needs to mature a little bit in year two, and he needs to show them that he's able to play on time. Todd Monken is a great offensive mind and is going to help him big time. Hopefully, Todd Monken allows him to throw the ball in the red zone a little bit. I would say what I would like to see with them is take the training wheels off of him. Right, take the training wheels off of Shador Sanders. Let him run an NFL offense through and through. And if he falls in his face, he falls in his face. At least you know, right? That's the thing. So do your first half the season, half the way through the year, you want to have an answer on Shador Sanders. That's the goal for the Browns as you assess the situation and look to move on to the future. Shador Sanders is not stopping me from drafting a quarterback in the future. Next year's classes are going to be good. I'm hoping to be as bad as possible, although that Browns roster is a little too good to be really bad and bottom out. So the goal with the roster like that is you kind of want us to sell off pieces a little bit. I would trade Myles Garrett. I'm not keeping him. I'm not keeping him there. I'm gonna add assets to my team. I'm gonna prepare for the future. I'm gonna give myself as many at bats as I can to get a quarterback in the building. That's what you want to do, and you can still command 2 to 3 first round picks for a guy like Myles Garrett right now in the open market. And you need to strike on the iron top. That's what you need to do before he starts to decline as he gets older. So if I'm them, I'm gonna like a strip down mode, right? With them, the way I would be with the Steelers. Same thing. It's the same situation, same division, same thing, same mindset. And I don't think there was a coach they could have hired that would have given an A to, because it's not about the coach, it's about the organization. It's about Andrew Barry giving these coaches IQ tests and giving them multiple choice questions and having them, bring in their favorite meal and all that stuff and talk about what they did when they were children to these interviews and just doing all types of weird unorthodox things during the interview process that don't make sense. The job's already undesirable as it is because you don't have a quarterback. You have actually statistically the 2 worst quarterbacks in football, statistically, which is crazy, right? On your roster. So they have a lot of things they have to address. The quarterback position is number 1. Get an answer on Shador Sanders. Hopefully he improves in year 2. There is room for improvement. I think he can get better, but you got to get an answer on that early. So don't muzzle him. You're not doing yourself any favors by having Carol Fannin throw the ball in the end zone and the red zone. Have your quarterback play through and through. Rely on Shador Sanders. Put everything on his plate and see if he can handle it. Columbia upset episode.
Hey, on the
Yo, who did
for
that
those
shit,
that's
bro?
watching, for those that's watching a
I
listen.
saw that too. I was like, wait a second, is this
I
the
just
right
seen
link?
that. I just looked up.
Oh man, for those that's watching or listening, you're not going to see what he's referencing. We title the episodes inside of our chat before it hits YouTube. The title of this one is Columbia upset episode. That's Columbia High School over in Maplewood, South Orange, whoever you want to talk about. Ravens, with Todd Monken leaving, they have the former Bears offensive coordinator with Declan Doyle. Grade that higher.
It's an interesting one. I mean, he came up under Ben Johnson and worked closely with him this past year with the Bears. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. He's the same age as Lamar, so you're really now reaching back into a younger generation of coaches. Like, I know McVay was hired when he was like 30, 31, but a 29-year-old OC, you don't really see that often. So I'm curious to see how he does this year. Although, like, if he's bringing the same tendencies that you see in a Ben Johnson run offense, which we've seen it now with Detroit and now Chicago, it works. It works in this NFL. And bringing those same concepts and principles over with now Lamar and Derrick Henry and some of the weapons that they have over there, you're going to see a different offense next year. He runs a lot of different things that you're not going to see with Todd Monken. Todd Monken was more, balanced. This, if you looked at Ben Johnson's play calling this year, it's a lot of motions to get favorable matchups. So I think we could see another MVP year for Lamar if everything shakes out the right way. But I'd look for receiver help for them. And no point in talking about it if they're not going to do that.
Last one that happened, we talked about it last episode. You guys engaged with it. You guys had some thoughts on it. The Eagles got their offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion, as the Eagles offensive coordinator. What grade do we give that hire for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I mean, we can let Miles, our correspondent, Dirty Bird, on the podcast, give
Correspondent.
us give us his take on that. I mean,
I mean,
because
look,
I'm sure.
you
Yeah,
could
go ahead,
you could
please.
make jokes, you could be funny, but he's a coach that came up under Matt Lafleur now, and he's worked closely with the quarterbacks, having been like the QB passing game coordinator. So he's worked with Malik, and Malik got better over the last couple years. One of the reasons that he's probably gonna get a decent free agent contract from somebody. Um, and Jordan Love's improved as well. It's a it's an interesting hire. It's different philosophies now in the room, and I don't think they're gonna hire somebody this outside the box if they weren't gonna let him, bring his principles into the offense. Which, I mean, you watch a Green Bay offense. There's motion with that too. A lot more, scheming guys open. Whether that's some underneath routes, work in the middle of the field. Uh, you're gonna have to work under center in this offense. Um, a lot of play action, and in Green Bay, they worked with two different types of quarterbacks. Jordan Love, not really known for scrambling, but Malik is a guy that profiles closer to what you would see with a Jalen Hurts. So if you want to watch some film on those guys, Malik played great down the stretch, kept them in it. Um, and he's a running quarterback. I expect Jalen Hurts to be used as a runner more this year, which I don't know, for whatever reason, but I'm not going to say his name. They didn't want to have him run as much last year for whatever reason. One of his, better qualities. He's a dual threat. So there's going to be some growing pains. It's a new offense again, but um, I think it's a good start, a good step in the right direction.
You
So
agree, disagree?
I mean, I'll give it like a B minus, C plus, because it wasn't their first choice. Like they didn't get the guy they wanted initially to come there. No matter what kind of propaganda they put out there and the spin they put out there earlier this week saying, "Well, we never offered Brian Dable a job, but you wanted Brian Dable to have a job, though." Like, yeah, so yeah, get off on the technicality. You didn't offer him the job officially because you knew he wasn't coming. You knew his preference was to go to Tennessee or get the Bills job. So how convenient for you to put it out now? Anyways, look, I think you have to respect the fact that Sean Mannion comes from great good stock. You know, he's learned from one of the best in Lafleur. So we'll see how that works with them over with the Eagles. I think you have to have some optimism about it because he comes from a good program, a good team that you respect. And so for that, it's not anything to scoff at or laugh at all. He has not called plays in the past, from what I understand. It's new. So that should be very interesting. I think Sirianni's going to have a lot more say over that offense than people realize. Sirianni's going to have his fingerprints all over this thing. And he's going to be very involved in offensive meetings and even on the day to day. I think he's going to have some. Because remember, the big thing with Sirianni is he's coaching for his job, right? So like, which is crazy, but he is. He's like the Eagles fans are you know they're a very irritable bunch, right? The media in Philly's a very irritable bunch, and so he's walking on hot coal right now. And so I think if things don't go right this year, with them, he could be out of a job. And I think because of that, you're going to see a lot of micromanagement of the offense from like Sirianni. I just think this is the way it's going to go, especially if Jalen Hurts does not play well. I think you're going to see a lot of like some really tough things happening there. It'll be a story we're following throughout the year if it's not going great. And you know, I just look. I look forward to us seeing what it really is, what the truth is here. I want Eagles fans to be faced with reality one way or the other. And if the reality is that Jalen Hurts can play great with Mannion, then they're going cool. I'll eat crow. I have no problem doing that. That's part of this. That's part of being in this space, right? And doing anything at a high level in podcasting is so you can't just I can't come out here and play it safe. I got to stand on something. So I got no problem standing on it. But if Jalen Hurts struggles again, y'all got to be sick of me. Just letting you know.
We
I
sick of you
want y'all to face
now.
reality. All right, yeah, it's gonna be worse. It's gonna be worse.
I was about to say, yeah, y'all gonna have to answer to Greg if you don't play well for sure. With that same mindset of the storylines and something to watch and something that very interesting in the same vein of coaches, Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not make the list for the Hall of Fame, the upcoming Hall of Fame class. Why do y'all think he didn't make the list? Like, what was the reasoning?
I mean, yeah, I think people kind of put their reasons out there. Even though Bill Polian won't stand on it and say, "Oh, I think I might have voted for him." Yeah, you probably clouded the room of, well, there was this cheating scandal of Spygate. There was the Deflate Gate that I think knocked his Colts out one year. So, um, yeah, when it comes down to it, a guy with his resume, it shouldn't be a question whether he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or not, and all the discourse around it. Like, it's funny, but yeah, you can argue. Yeah, you're not a first ballot Hall of Famer if you're putting these, you know, allegations on his name. But the resume kind of speaks for itself. He's got more Super Bowls than most franchises have. He's second on the all-time wins list. Um, yeah, you can try to play that Tom Brady versus Bill, who was more beneficial. But early on, I mean, Tom Brady wasn't exactly lighting it up in those Super Bowls. I think Bill kind of maximized the rosters. He stopped that, greatest show on turf in that first one, like when Tom Brady was a young pup in that first Super Bowl. So this is a great coach. It's a great coach, and for him to not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, it kind of clouds the voting process. And you know, you're not exactly. They did the same thing with To. They didn't vote To in first ballot because they don't like him, and I think people don't like Bill. Bill's not the most likable guy. He's not. He's always been kind of harsh when it comes to dealing with the media and who votes you in, the media. So um, it'll be interesting. He'll be in next year. There's no question. But yeah, it felt like there was a little bit of a vendetta against him this year.
Is there a vendetta against Eli Manning?
Hell no. Hell
Okay,
no.
hold
Ain't
on,
no
hold on.
vendetta. He's not.
On
He's
the,
not a first or second ballot Hall of Fame. He'll get in. But there's some good players out there that haven't been voted in that I would put in before Eli. But
hold on,
but hey, you say your piece. You know,
hold
who's more
on,
clutch in
hold
the
on.
playoffs?
They ain't got the shit. That's what matters. But you know what? Hold on. The bill thing is, I think it's mainly media members, journalists being petty, holding their interactions with him against him, holding the whole, dating the child situation against him as well. I don't think that went over very well with them. I think they held a lot of the off the field stuff against them, and they can use Feige and all that stuff against them if you want to, but that's not going to stop Tom Brady from being that first ballot. And Tom Brady has had his hands dirty with that as much as Belichick did, right? And it shouldn't, by the way. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, so Tom Brady is, and so should Belichick. So this is all about these guys having hurt feelings, and they couldn't wait to exact their revenge, and here they are doing it. Um, and it makes the whole process look like a joke. But we've always known that. I mean, we've always talked about the Hall of Fame voting being an issue. We've always talked about MVP voting being an issue. When you allow these media members to be the ones to make these votes, look, they're not impartial. Okay, they deal with these people. They have feelings. They have relationships. They talk to one another. If you don't treat one of them well, it can kind of spread and get ugly. And we've seen media members drive coaches out of town. Right, coaches get fired because of relationships with media members, especially in New York, anyways. Right, so it's just it's a flawed system. The voting process is flawed with the Hall of Fame situation and how they go about voting. So there's that. There's that. The Eli thing, look, like first ballot, if you don't want to vote him in first ballot, I understand. That's fine. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, and I didn't. Second ballot, I think we were at a loss here. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Um, he had the largest hand, him in the pass rush, but him, the quarterback, in beating the greatest football team we've ever seen play football. Like that Patriots team with Randy Moss going out there, beating them, making those throws, making the big throw down the sideline to Manningham and all that good stuff. Like, and then even if you want to take away the big game situation and go into the playoff runs and the way he elevated his play and played like a Hall of Fame quarterback when they needed him to the most, and he always seemed to rise to the occasion. I don't see how that guy is not a Hall of Famer, at least on the second try. I know he'll get in, so I'm not going to sit here and cry over spilt milk. I personally, whatever. Like, again, flawed system, right? But I think the record, the overall record hurts him. Like the one was it 115, whatever it is, 115 wins, 115 losses, whatever. But when you look at the postseason, the performance in the biggest moments, that is what matters the most, and that's the reality of the situation. It's unfortunate that the voters don't see it the same way, but he'll get in, like you said, and so I think to sit here and be upset about it, or for me to sit here and be outraged would be ridiculous. Like, he's a Hall of Famer, he'll get in. It is what it is. But he should have gotten in this time.
But that's the same thing with, I don't know. We look at the winning part of it, sure. Um, the resume, though, outside of like the playoffs and stuff, it's average. It's like an average kind of resume when you look at his numbers. And I was talking to somebody about it. Do we think Matthew Stafford is a first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't. I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he'll get in at some point. But the numbers, great. But when you're talking about Hall of Fame, like, this is the top of the top. Like, you kind of have to get picky at some point. So people are going to be outraged by if they don't get in, if they have to wait a year. Shoot, they made T.O. wait a year, and he's like third on the list all time receiving. Like
And
that,
we know why he
those are
did that,
records
though.
that, and we know why. We know why. But there's always going to be a reason why. Like Rogers, first ballot Hall of Famer. Tom, first ballot Hall of Famer. But we're talking about like elite guys.
On the
Like
second,
even
I'm talking about the
Stafford.
second
Stafford,
go around, though.
what?
So that's fine. If you want to say Stafford's second ballot or second go round, that's fine. I'm just saying we're talking about first ballot. I said Eli's not first ballot Hall of Fame. I'm fine with that. But second though, I feel like is an appropriate. I mean, come on, that's an appropriate time for him to get in there. I would say with that resume, postseason resume, anyways.
Okay, but then now you're dwindling down to the postseason resume. Like they're looking at the body of work, the uh whatever, leading the league in interceptions one year, or I know at a point down the road, things kind of fell off the wagon with the Giants, and they weren't exactly helping him out when it came to it. But everything counts, the whole body of work, whether that's from 2004 or 2018.
I get that. I'm just saying, at some point, if you like, I don't know who got in this class, so I'm not gonna make it this. I'm not gonna sit here and be outraged. I'm just saying that you're when you have that level of success in the postseason, twice and two runs, it overshadows the regular season stuff to a large degree, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying. Like when it mattered the most, you were at your best. That's what matters in sports. To be honest, like you know what I mean? Like there are plenty of guys when it matters most who don't play well, who have all their accolades and all that stuff, and are phenomenal in the regular season, and do not show up when it matters the most. On some level, that has to count for something. Here is what I'm saying.
Fair.
Hey, all right, so let's grade some of the rookie quarterbacks from this season. We'll be doing this throughout the offseason of the NFL and obviously the Super Bowl's here, but we'll be doing that for the rest of the NFL offseason is looking at how some of these rookies did at some of the premium positions. We're not going to break down every single thing like tackles and guards and oh, how was the rookie water boy, but the main positions that everybody talks about. So we start off with quarterbacks. What grade would you give Jackson Dart's rookie season?
A plus, A plus. Adverse situation, played at a high level without his top players being there. Lost Cam Scatterboo, lost that momentum. Still played good football. Outside of one bad game he had against the Vikings, he was phenomenal. Phenomenal throughout the entire season, and played his best against the best competition. So, and against that schedule as well, like I just yeah, A plus. There's a lot of reasons out of structure, throwing the ball in structure, showed arm strength, showed touch. There's a reason why John Harbaugh picked the Giants, and it was because of him. So I don't know. If you don't believe me, believe Harbaugh. I don't know. A plus.
Yeah, I'll go A plus. I mean, he was almost not a first round quarterback. Like if the Giants hadn't traded back in, who knows? He might have been a day two guy. And for that to be the case, for him to look the best of all the rookie quarterbacks, even though the situation wasn't the best. I mean, you lose Malik in like week 4, and you don't really get a chance to see him with his top guy. Yeah, he did great, minus the concussions.
So
Cameron Ward. What grade would Cameron Ward get?
an A for me. If not, if you say A plus, I wouldn't fight you too much. But yeah, I thought the turnovers a little bit, like the fumbles and things like that, were a bit avoidable on his part. I think he did a better job of taking the football, but the highlight reel and the stuff he did in spite of what was around him was phenomenal. So you have to dig past the numbers and watch him play. But they have a quarterback in Tennessee that's going to be there for a long time. He's got to mature a little bit. In fact, you can even say like the learning about how to operate in a locker room with men and talking about we're ass and talking about how one win didn't mean that much and the players pushing back against that, like those things are things he had to learn, and I think he has a learning curve in terms of how to lead a franchise, be a face of a franchise. So if you wanted to give him a lower grade because of that, that's fine. But and those things factor in for me. But I still give him an A because of what he put on the field, the product on the field. So I thought he did a really, really good job in year one, and I'm excited to see what he does in year two with Brian Daboll, who's can coach.
Yeah, I'd say B minus only because yeah, there were moments where he showed why he was the number one pick, but there were a lot of times where it wasn't the best product, and that's there there's not that much talent on this Tennessee team. They're gonna have to do a lot of scouting, free agency, the draft as well. But when your best receiver Ridley is basically an afterthought, I don't know what you're supposed to do as far as the quarterback goes. He played better as the year went on towards the end. Um, but yeah, like you said, some of the comments that he made that kind of brings his grade down a little bit. Because yeah, as a quarterback, you're kind of you want him to be more, you know, buttoned with what you're gonna say and how you address the media. I think he kind of was a little cocky when it came to uh, how he addressed some questions, even after a game where you lose pretty badly and say we're ass. Like, how do you go back into the locker room after that and just be like, hey, did I hear that right? Did you say we're ass? Like, these guys are grown men fighting for their jobs and working hard. Like, that's the last thing they want to hear from the number one pick. Who, I mean, you come in, you get like a guaranteed $52 million. Like, these guys are working hard for their money. So that's it. That's all I'd say.
Before we go to Mr. Right Timing, Tyler Show, what grade would he get?
A B. I mean, another guy who was like a second round pick. I think Kellen Moore kind of took a shot in the dark with drafting him and saying, hey, we'll try to develop him, see what we have with Rattler, but I'm going to see what I have with this guy that I actually drafted, who, I mean, he had talent coming out of Louisville. And at first it was a little tough, but, down the stretch, he does look like he has some talent. I'm interested to see how they do draft wise, whether they add like another pass catcher, because outside of Olave, who, I mean, you couldn't throw it to him enough. Um, they need somebody else out there after you traded Shaheed. But yeah, the future looks bright, at least for the next year in New Orleans with Shook.
Yeah, I would agree. I was going to say a B too. I think he came on strong at the end of the season, but I think the biggest determining factor for me in all this is the fact that you didn't beat out Rattler, in the start of the season. I thought you should have been able to beat that guy out, and didn't. But he came on strong when it mattered the most. Played football at a high level and down the stretch. Granted, it was a favorable schedule, which I think people seem to ignore. He didn't play great teams at the end of the year. I think the quality of opponent does matter when you're having that kind of conversation. But regardless, he showed tons of promise as well. I think New Orleans fans have a lot of reasons to be excited because Kellen Moore, at the very least, gives you like that stability, like the same way I talked about, Kubiak going to pair up with Mendoza. It's the same thing. Like you at least have that baseline level of competency with your play caller, and you have someone who's going to put you in good situations to make plays. So yeah, he has a bright future. A B, I think, is a fair grade as well, and he's certainly someone they should be excited about.
And the last rookie quarterback, Shador Sanders. What grade do we give his rookie season?
It's a
I
landmine.
say like an F
I'll,
plus. He get an F plus.
damn.
I mean, it wasn't great. He had that one good game where he was airing it out. But outside of that, like there were too many moments in games where he's trying to over scramble. Where, yeah, there's one thing to scramble and you get rid of it, but he's trying to make that play that he was doing in the Big 12 and taking bad sacks, which kill drives, too many turnover worthy throws. Um, yeah, the product wasn't good this year with Shador, and yeah, all the stuff with Stefanski aside, like he does have to play better next year. Like, take this with a grain of salt. But if you play like this again, you might be out of the NFL in 2 to 3 years. So hopefully he plays better. But it didn't look good in the season.
You don't think he could have a
Oof.
Tyrod Taylor type of career?
I think if he wasn't Deion's son, maybe. But I think you have, I don't want to say the ego, but like you have the whole thing. He's not even starting, and then he's answering questions like a mime and doing all these other antics that kind of teams watch this. They're watching you do this, and it does become a distraction at a point. And I do think he handles the media fairly well, but there's times where the immaturity does come out. So I don't know. He could have a Tyrod like career, but I think this is his make it or break it right here with Cleveland.
I mean, look, and that may not be an exaggeration. I was going to say something along the lines of a C minus, right? I thought that might be what it was. There were enough highs to feel like you could invest in the next season. F is strong. Wow, yeah, you don't get some people on you about that. But I also understand the criticism. I do. Like I said, like I think is still immature in the way that he kind of approaches the game, and I don't think he understands that he's not the athlete that he would need to be to play the way he's trying to play. And I do think that it's not his fault, to no fault of his own, but being Dion's son makes it hard because you have this cult like following that, kind of can become a distraction. And he addressed that himself. It can become a distraction to the team when you're not having your way, or, things aren't going the way you'd like them to go. So, it's tough, but I do think he has to get better. He has to become a better on schedule thrower of the football. He has to get better at deciphering what defenses are doing early, pre-snap, right? Early in the possession. There's just got to be growth in those areas for him to become a viable NFL quarterback and have a career like Tyrod has, right? Where you can stick around the NFL for a long time as well. And then got to be okay not being the center of attention, which is not his fault again. That's just the media machine. I think even to some, I think part of it too is like you see he got the Pro Bowl nod. I really believe he got the Pro Bowl nod in part because they thought it would bring eyes to the game because people are fanatics of him. I thought the NFL knew exactly what they were doing when they made him a Pro Bowler because he did not play like a Pro Bowler. It's not based on merit with on field play. This is mainly because of what they thought it would do for a failing product. No one watches the Pro Bowl. So with Shador in there, it was lightning rod. People will watch, right? People will get excited. I think that was the idea. But if he can shake that stuff and become a good enough quarterback to kind of overcome it, and teams that can feel comfortable with the fact that he can come in and run their offense when in a pinch, then yeah, you can have a long career. But as far as like the ceiling as a starter, I do worry about it because like again, the stuff he did at Colorado is not transferring over. It's not transferring well to the NFL. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for teams to invest in that long term. And then you add the whole distraction piece. Hopefully he takes a step forward next year. The biggest thing that can happen for him is that Monken takes the reins off of him and lets him play quarterback. And we get to see. We get to see.
Hey, do y'all think he should have, maybe if he was his agent, maybe if you're Dion, maybe if you're one of his teammates, somebody that has his ear, do you think you would have told him and suggested that he said no to going to the Pro Bowl?
I mean, I don't think it makes much of a difference, right? Like whether you say yes or no, right? Go have fun in Honolulu with the other guys. It's not going to affect the way you go about playing next year. All it's going to matter is what you put on tape. They can point to the tape, right? I don't know that he's a fit. I don't think he's a fifth round pick, right? Based on what he did in college and based on his projection to the NFL. But he didn't play great. He didn't play great. He had ups and downs. He's better than Dylan Gabriel, which should tell you if we had Dylan Gabriel in this segment, he gets an F. He was horrendous. So he's better than that. But so that's an F to me. But like I think he's a C. If you can say D, I can live with a D. F is strong. You're gonna have them people on your head, Miles. I'm letting you know, which I hope happens.
we might hear from Jamie Foxx again.
Yeah,
Once,
no, for real,
once,
maybe.
once we post this one, Super Bowl is next week, man. Time is flying. The football season is done. The NFL season is essentially done. We have the Super Bowl. Before y'all give me y'all picks, I'm gonna just ask a couple of questions, some storylines going along with the Super Bowl. First one: who wins that JSN Gonzalez matchup?
Oof. I would say JSN, but then I also say it depends on if they run man or they go with the zone concept that they've been running more often this year. Like one of my friends is a Patriots fan, so get all the inside scoop on that. So he doesn't really travel. He doesn't travel with these guys. So I'm curious if they, give him the Revis treatment and have him follow throughout the game because that's the guy who can make or break this game. Like as far as pass catching goes for the Seahawks, outside of JSN, it's who? Cooper Cup, who is a shell of his former self, and Rashid Shaheed, who all they tell him just run straight. They treat him like Forrest Gump. Just keep running. And maybe the ball it'll hit you at some point. Um, so yeah, JSN, that guy is really good. And that's why you're seeing a wave of slot guys getting drafted higher and teams are looking away from that bigger, like Calvin Johnson sort of guy. It's all about speed and quickness, and JSN showed he could beat anybody. So
I think because of how they deploy JSN and where they put him, like you saw him take a snap last week when the touchdown throw where he was in the backfield. They can put him anywhere. Gonzalez is not going to follow him everywhere. So I think naturally JSN is going to have some success because of that fact. The Patriots have a really good defense. It's not just Gonzalez, in that backfield that's really good, but the Seahawks team is just loaded. I don't want to get too far into the other parts of the conversation, but I do think Jason's going to have success. And it won't necessarily all be Gonzalez's fault because you can put him anywhere and Gonzalez won't follow him everywhere, right? So he'll have some success. They're going to give him the football. There's nothing the Patriots can do about that. It's going to happen.
Hey, so I want to do this since you mentioned it too, and this is not giving y'all picks because after this y'all will let me know y'all picks, which I think I know, but we'll let our listeners and our viewers know. Greg, I want you to tell me, our listeners and our viewers, what will the Patriots have to do to actually beat the Seahawks? Miles, you share what the Seahawks have to do to beat the Patriots.
I'm gonna go first. I think if the Patriots are gonna win this football game, it's gonna be because they stopped the run and Kenneth Walker's not going crazy, and you make them one dimensional and put more pressure on Sam Darnold to drop back and throw the football, where you can get after him and rush the passer, right, and get more exotic with your blitz pressures and things like that, and change coverages. But you can't do that if Kenneth Walker's just doing whatever he wants. He's running the football and they can play smash mouth football and have their way. If that's gonna happen, you're not gonna win the football game. That's the first order of business. And then on the other side of it, you've got to be able to run the football on your side. You've got to be able to have some success running the football as the Patriots and take pressure off Drake May in his first Super Bowl action. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him, but that needs to happen as well. They got to be able to run the football and stop the run. Oh, that's in control of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball to win the football game. It's obvious, but it doesn't get more like that's the thing. Like the Seahawks are so violent as a football team that if you can negate that violence and win in the trenches, you're going to have a chance to beat them. But the problem is most teams have not been able to match that level of violence that they play with. And therein lies the issue. So if you can do those two things, you have a chance to win. Because Drake May is certainly good enough to beat you if you can control the line of scrimmage.
yeah, and as far as what the Seahawks have to do, I'd say it's contain Drake May. Like as he's shown this year, he can get outside the pocket, get those pesky first downs that you scramble for that everybody hated Mahomes for. Um, but you got to put pressure on him, like the Broncos did last week. Try to contain him as much as you can, so he doesn't get outside the pocket and get those first downs that way, and make him beat you with his arm. The secondary for the Seahawks is the better of the two. Um, you've got a great rookie in Emmanuel, shout out Griff again. Um, and some of the secondary, like Witherspoon, some of the other guys on Kobe Bryant, too. So, yeah, this is going to be a big who can beat who. Like, can Diggs get open? Can you scheme some of these guys open? Can Booty beat his matchup like he did last week for a touchdown? No, a couple weeks ago, like he did for a touchdown. Can he? We'll see. But I think the main point is get pressure on Drake May because he makes it tough on a defense because he scrambles. He's good at just checking down either to the running back or the tight end and doing it that way. But I think he's going to have to try to take more chances this game. And they turned the ball over. This was like the best defense in the NFL this year at turning the ball over. So I'm excited for this game.
Who do y'all have winning the game?
I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. For me, I just think, like I said, not many teams have been able to match their level of physicality. Overall, I think they play with a violence that reminds me of those 49ers, those early 2000s, early 2010s, with Willis and those guys. Like that level of violence they play with, it's hard to match. And it actually even with the Legion of Boom, like just that level of violence those guys in the backfield play with Browner and those guys, like they just come with really bad intentions with every tackle, and they're sound with their tackling. And I think they're battle tested. They've played in a really tough NFC West this year. They've had to beat the Rams twice to get this thing to get here as well, which is no easy task. The NFC was stronger than the AFC this year, and the Patriots have not had the hardest schedule in the world and not had the hardest circumstances to get here. It's just the reality of it. The Patriots will be back. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time with that quarterback playing at that high of a level and a great coach. But I just think the Seattle Seahawks are too much to overcome. They're the best team in football by a wide margin, in my opinion, outside of the Rams, who they beat. So for me, I think this game is going to go the Seahawks' way. I just think they're going to force turnovers and they're going to present a different challenge than what Drake's been accustomed to this year.
True. I do think if the Seahawks win, it'll be because they won the turnover battle. I'm curious to see how Sam does in a big game. This is a big moment.
Yeah.
He came up big last week against the Rams, but this is a Super Bowl now. Things are going to get a little tougher once you're standing back there in the pocket. And can he not throw the interceptions that we've seen him throw in the past? Like he's had games this year where you're like, this is the guy that we saw last year in the playoffs for the Vikings that kind of choked down the stretch. Um, as long as they control the turnovers and win the turnover battle, I think whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win the game. I mean, that's I'm sure what the coaches are saying to the teams right now, but it is true. Like, look at last week, Broncos versus the Patriots. I think without that turnover in the red zone or deep in their side of the field, the Broncos probably beat that Patriots team. But because you turned it over, hey, you gave them a free walk-in touchdown for Drake May, and that was the game. So a lot can be decided by a fumble. Yeah.
On the flip side, when we talk about the NBA, a lot can be decided at the trade deadline. Tomorrow is the anniversary of Luka Doncic being traded to the Lakers. The trade deadline is 4 days away. Do you think we will see any trades? It's been very slow. Do we see any? I don't think we'll see a level of Luka Doncic trade for a while. But do we think any trades going to be happening? It's been very quiet so far, and it's 4 days left.
I think you'll see what we've seen so far, where it's kind of like these smaller deals for kind of like depth pieces. I don't know if we'll see a big name get traded at the deadline. Just like I don't think Giannis gets traded at the deadline. I think the Bucks will have to wait until the offseason to field the best offer when most teams kind of have more assets to move. Um, but yeah, I was looking at John Morant. I don't know if he gets moved. Michael Porter Jr., same thing. I don't know if the Nets are too keen on, or Greg's too keen on trading Michael Porter Jr. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more like a Schroeder. That's a guy that teams need off the bench. So if your bench is not strong, you're going to try to get off a couple second round picks or trade some expiring contracts for a better player. I'm curious to see what the Mavs do. Whether they, I don't think AD's getting moved, but do they trade like a Najee Marshall for picks and to see where he goes? Because he's played great. If you look at it over the last like 10 games, this guy's, they're doing all they can to boost that trade stock up. So I'm curious what the Knicks will do. We need a point guard off the bench. I don't know if I fully trust Kolick to do that. So do they look at like a Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, somebody who's pesky? That's the best part of the playoffs. You need a guy like a McConnell that's a little pesky to throw off what the other team's doing. So
Greg, speak to that DeAndre Hunter trade. That's one that we got, which is that's kind of telling you what type of trade deadline we probably going to have. But what was your thoughts on that DeAndre Hunter trade?
I mean, that was a horrendous trade for the Kings. The Kings just continually make terrible decisions in the franchise that set them back, and it's the reason why they've perpetually been bad outside of a couple good years, but they, abandoned ship and let De'Aaron Fox go, right? And so they can't even do that right. They can't even be like they can even be like middle of the pack at a high level. Um, but what a bad trade. I mean, you don't get any assets in return for the Kings. The Kings, the team that's trying to tank and rebuild their franchise and replenish after letting go of both Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox, crazy cornerstone pieces. Let them go. And now you're trying to replenish, but you make this trade for DeAndre Hunter, and you're the aggressor in the deal. If you're a team that's rebuilding, you handle like the Nets have done, and you are trying to sell pieces, and you're the seller, you're not the buyer. They're the buyer here, and they go get DeAndre Hunter, which makes no sense at all. Because Sabonis is sick and tired of being there and realizes that it's pretty bleak and there's not much of a future there. So like, what do you surround like DeAndre Hunter is a surrounding piece. What are you using him to surround your team with? Like, what is he there to complement? Is the point? And it's just a pretty ridiculous trade if you're really honest and you boil it down. Horrible management over there. A horrible deal, but a great deal for the Cavs. You get under the salary cap, you get under the luxury tax, whatever, and they get a really good player in Schroeder off the bench, and Keon Ellis is solid. Keon Ellis is really, really solid as well. But the Kings are directionless. They're absolutely directionless, and it's a hapless franchise. I feel bad for those fans. Um, Overall thoughts on the trade deadline, I just think it's going to be slow. I don't think that anyone big gets moved until the summer as well. I don't think the Nets want to move MPJ unless it's for like a crazy package. They're not unwilling to do so, but I just don't think they're going to do it unless it's like a really, really big return, right? Because he's played really well and he seems to fit here in Brooklyn. As far as Giannis goes, I do think a trade is really relatively unlikely unless they go out there and can swing a big deal with a team where they can get a third deal and a team involved. It's far more likely that you see a trade in the summer where they have more picks, like Miles said, as well. So, hey, it's not going to be a fun trade deadline, but blame the aprons for that, right? Like John Morant, I think he will get moved. LaMelo Ball, I think he could get moved. We'll see how the season goes. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. Maybe that's enough to sway them to keeping him. I think they should keep him, in my opinion. But if you trade him, you're probably going to wait till the offseason to do so because you want to give this thing a trial run with Colin Kneppel and those guys. I don't think the Hornets are in any position to trade guys with star power. My personal opinion. I would not do it. I think it's bad business for a struggling market. But we'll see what they do. All these big names that are being floated out there, I just think they're more likely to get moved in the summer, man. It's hard with the aprons to move people. I would love for a smaller deal like a Cam Thomas to get traded. I don't see that happening because I don't think he has value, right? Under these current rules and regulations of the salary cap that the players agreed to. So they have no one to be mad at but themselves. But here we are. Here we are.
Completely agree, and I don't think Hornets are going to move LaMelo. Wouldn't be smart at this time. They're on a winning streak. They just beat the Spurs, and currently over their last 10 to 15 games, they have the number one net rating in the league, higher than the OKC Thunder. So, and the plus minus is like through the roof with LaMelo, Khan, Brandon Miller on the floor together. They have something with those three. You get some veteran leadership in that locker room, figure some other pieces around. They might be cooking with something in Charlotte in years to come. Playing this year because they started off terrible. But you got a healthy LaMelo, Kneppel, who has been
Unreal.
out of this world this year. Brandon Miller, and you keep Miles Bridges outside of the studio, you cooking with something right there. Kalkbrenner, the center, Diabate, the other center, like they got a nice young core over there. Speaking of young cores, man, we got some this upcoming draft class looks nice. I saw somebody tweet, I think it was Kenny Beecham was talking about my team over here battling for the play-in when when Darren Peterson is in the draft.
For real, bro.
Hey, we gonna talk about some of these top prospects. What do you think are some strengths and weaknesses of Darren Peterson?
Darren Peterson is awesome, man. I think he is probably the best college guard I've seen, or the most complete college guard I've seen as an offensive player since I saw Kyrie. Like That's that kind of the last guy I can remember where it just felt like when he wanted to score, he was gonna score, and there was nothing you could do about it. With bad spacing in college, by the way, like it's not even like it's good spacing. Like it's just you got the two bigs, like the floor is compressed in college. The level of shooting isn't as good, so it's just tougher to go out there and score at a high clip. And he makes it look routine and easy every single night. I want to see more defensively. I think he can lock in defensively as well. I think I saw some pretty nice playmaking in that BYU game as well. Some nice reads coming off handoffs, some nice skip passes he threw, can throw with either hand. I think there's something there with him. He can be on ball and be like a point guard, so to speak, in the NBA. These point guards are never really point guards anymore, but you know what I mean. Like he can be on the ball and make decisions. There's not a whole lot of holes offensively. Defensively, I want to see more. That's what I would say. Can you defend the best of the best? I think he did a good job on AJ yesterday. AJ was not as good, but still solid. But I think he accepts the challenge. He's a competitor. He guarded him for most of that game, from what I can remember as well. So, and he was waving guys off, like he was trying to get him one-on-one offensively. Like there's something to that as well. So there's still things he needs to work on. I need to dive into more Darren Peterson take, to be quite honest with you guys, which I will do. I am going to do that and have a more informed take on his weaknesses, but I'll strengths, like what can he do offensively? Like, right, he is an elite scorer and is going to be an elite scorer in the NBA, and so that's pretty exciting when you talk about him.
I agree. I mean, I was about to say, like, you pretty much hit it on the head. Like, this guy can score at all levels. I think that was his best performance yesterday against BYU. Like, that first half, that's as good as a first half as you can play in a matchup that was hyped as much as it was. Like, it was BYU versus Kansas, more like AJ versus Darren, and he outplayed him in that first half. I'm curious about this like soft tissue stuff that he's got going on and the cramping. It's an interesting thing that's going on. I think Paolo had dealt with that in college at one point at Duke, but when he's out there, he's really good. Like he didn't have to play the rest of the game. I already saw enough to see like, all right, yeah, you outplayed AJ. There's nothing he could do in this game for me to be like, okay, maybe it's a toss up. Like no, first half when they were up by 20, I mean, he did everything. He was hitting shots in people's faces. The dunk that he had on that one dude, that poster, that was crazy. Like, and it's a smooth. It's not like awkward. It's just smooth. So, and now I understand the Kobe comps too. Like, it's just a different level to it.
He's advanced. Like he's really good at using his body to kind of get you off him, and he just rises up so quick. Like it's fast, and he gets the shot off over you. Like he creates separation in a lot of different ways. Got really good footwork. You can tell this kid's just been training his whole life. Like this kid, it's a different level of attention to detail with the way he goes about scoring. It's not normal. Like it's not like in the way that Kyrie wasn't normal. Like no high schooler should have been able to do the things Kyrie was doing. Right, finishing with both hands, like spinning the ball off the glass, just all the crazy stuff that don't make sense. Darren doesn't play with that level of flash, but it's the technicality of the way he plays. Like he's just really technically sound early offensively. He's gonna be an elite scorer immediately. He's gonna have a couple 40-point games. He could have a 50-point game as a rookie. I can see it. Like he's that gifted as an offensive player. It's not a drill. Like he's the real deal. So he's the number one pick and for me, it's by a landslide. I don't think it's particularly close. I really don't. I know I see some Cam Booster truthers get mad about that online, which I guess we'll get into. But I really like Darren Peterson's game. There's not much not like.
Hey, question, right? Question. If the Wizards get that number one overall pick, you still take Peterson with Trae Young over
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. He doesn't stop me.
It's tough.
Trae
You
Young
don't
ain't part
want
of the plans there.
Yeah, you don't want to go like best. You don't want to pick for need. Like if you're picking that high,
Nah,
you
BPA.
pick the best player, you make it work. You got him over there, Trey Johnson, who I think could be one of those guys at some point. They got something brewing over there in Washington. I'm interested to see how they attack the offseason, but yeah, if you have a chance to draft Peterson, I'm not drafting AJ over him just because works better, or Boozer because there's a need at a 4 spot. Like, you take the best player and make it work that way.
Let's not put that in the air though. The Nets will get the first pick.
You guys are gonna get Cam Boozer, and you're gonna be happy about it.
I don't get Cam Boozer. I know who I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get my guy in this class. I have a my guy in this class, and I don't know if we're gonna talk about him next, but I have a guy who
Who?
I really want to get.
Who? Sean
Kingston
Kingston?
Fleming. Kingston Fleming, yeah, Sean, whatever. Kingston Fleming is my guy. That's a Greg's guy in this class, 100%. That is a classic kind of player that I love. I love those kind of guys because I don't want to steal Tone's thunder. I don't know if Tone was going there, but um,
What do you love about Kingston? Because I've heard it from you. We had on an interview, Jay Hoops, a historian over there from Memphis, Tennessee, said the same thing. Love some Kingston Fleming. What do you see when you watch him that you love the most?
I watched him early this year. I just happened to be watching Houston, and I was flipping through channels, and I sat there and watched him play. Yo, that kid is advanced in understanding how to play the game. Like, what I mean by that is he reads at an elite level. Like, you don't have to teach him that. Like, when he goes to the NBA, he's not going to struggle in missing open players, missing the right read. He's going to make the right read offensively 9 times out of 10. That's just who he is. He is an elite, just like Luka Doncic type, like where you have an innate ability to understand where the ball needs to go and when it needs to go there and how you're going to get it there, right? Whether there's hockey assists, whether there's direct pass, no matter what, a skip pass, you can throw a pass with either hand. And then you add in the offensive ability, which is just high level. Like he can get to the basket downhill. He's super athletic. He changes pace. He does not play at one speed, which I love. He's also got more burst than I realized athletically. Like when he takes off and gets going downhill, it jumps off the screen at you. He's moving. Like he can take off and dunk it. He can play with verticality. There's nothing that kid can't do. He can shoot the ball at a high clip as well. Offensively, he is the complete package as well. So it's crazy for me to be talking about two guys in the class like this, to be gushing over two guys' offensive ability like this in the same class. It doesn't really happen. So, here Miles go. But you see, but Kingston Fleming is special, man. He's special, and it's because he was schooled on how to play basketball the right way early. You can see it in watching him. He just understands where the ball needs to go and when he needs to go there. He does it at an extremely high level. I'm very excited about him, and I pray that he's a Brooklyn Net. That's the guy I'd love to be on my team, running the show for me. He's going to be an elite point guard in the NBA for a long time. I firmly believe that. Firmly.
Hey, Miles, Cam Boozer, strengths, weaknesses. What come to mind from what you've watched with Cam Boozer?
I mean, it's hard to find anything to really hate about his game. Like, I think the main debate is like it's not flashy. He's kind of polished, and when you look at a guy like this, you kind of try to project and see like, is there much room for him to get better than he is currently? Like right now, he could win National Player of the Year the way he plays. That's how good this guy is. But when you're talking about the NBA, I mean, it's not like he jumps off the page when you're looking at athleticism. He's got an old man's game, kind of like he's got the post game. He can shoot a little bit, has playmaking skills when it comes down to it. Um, and another guy that's going to be a stud coming out of Duke. So yeah, we joke about Boozer, but this is a guy that, hey, if he's there, you take him as well. And I think he's going to be a really good pro. It's just when you're talking about that top overall pick, when there's a guy that you think superstar, uh, potential face of the league sort of thing, you're not passing that up for a Cam Boozer, who I think he can be an all star at the next level. Um, I mean, I look at his game; it reminds me of that Pistons Blake Griffin, where very polished. He can shoot it, make good reads. He's grabbing rebounds, maybe like 25-point scorer. So I mean, when you talk about it like that, what's not to like about Cam Boozer?
No, I think the
Next
question
name.
isn't if he's gonna be bad in the NBA. Oh, shoot, could y'all hear me? My bad.
Yeah.
The question isn't if he's not. If he's, the question is not is he going to be bad in the NBA. The question is he going to be one of those Duke guys that's better in the NBA than he is in college, like the
Right.
way Cooper was. Because I think there's a lot to like. It's just what's the ceiling, like
Yeah.
But I'm not ruling it out. I have to watch him more. There are things to like about him for sure, a lot to like, and there's some things that impress me about him as well. The fluidity with the way he moves that side is impressive. So I'm not out on him at all. I think he's a guy who merits a top 5 pick.
Next name up there, AJ DeBansa.
I feel like he's more raw than anything. Like, I think he's the most raw of the guys at the top right here. Like, Darren's polished, Boozer's polished. AJ, I mean, he's just got the raw athleticism, and if he puts it all together, this is a guy who can be one of like the top 15, 20 players in the NBA at his peak. Like, you can't teach that athleticism. Um, Once he figures out how to handle like the bumps, like yesterday against Kansas, they were getting physical with him, and that was really throwing him off. So, yeah, he'll get better with that, but um, you just can't coach that size and athleticism, and he works hard. He works hard. So yeah, it's gonna be talked about for months. You know?
Last name that we got up here is Darius Acuff, I want to say. Acuff Jr.
Okay. No, Darius Acuff, um, another guy from Arkansas, one of the Coach Calipari guards. I think he's gonna be solid. He's a tier below Kingston. Like he's got the mid range down pat, and I think he's gonna be a solid NBA guard. Do I think star? Maybe not, but I do think that he can be a good player in the NBA.
Well, I want to circle back to the Banson for a second and just say I think he's gonna, out of all the guys in the top 5, like Miles said, he's gonna require the hardest coaching to kind of get to where he needs to be. There are some things he doesn't do at the highest level, like cuts and things like that, off ball cuts and creating separation off the bounce. He's not necessarily great at, from what I've seen playing. That being said, he still warrants a second overall pick because of that his ability to do everything else, score at a high level, right? Like the athletic ability. He warrants the second overall pick in this class. Acuff, I've seen the least of him of all the guys. To be honest, I know he can score. I know he can. I wonder about his defense. He looks strong. He doesn't look like a freshman in college. I'll tell you that. He looks like a guy who's played professional basketball to this point. To be quite honest, with his physical build, he's obviously a very gifted scorer. I wonder about his defense and playmaking. That's the biggest thing for me with this guy. Big defense, playmaking. What do you do when you aren't scoring the basketball more than anything else? Like that's the biggest thing. I know what Kingsley Clemens is going to do when he's not scoring the basketball, and that's why I love him. I'm a big fan. I think Peterson can do some of those things I'm talking about. Like when he's not scoring, he can impact the game. I wonder what that looks like for Darius Acuff. So that's the biggest thing for me. I want to see that play out and see what and watch him a little bit more to give a more detailed breakdown, which we'll do.
We've had in a while. Very, very, very much looking forward
Tone.
to what we get from this class.
So, mind you, we didn't even talk about that kid Nate Ament from Tennessee, who people were raving about too. The 6'10" kid who's fluid and shoots the ball. We didn't even talk about him. And there's another one. They got like the top 10 is going to be crazy in this class. You finish the top 10 pick, you're not going to lose. Like you're going to be okay. I mean, you pick A cup. I don't know. I don't know that I'm as high as A cup. I got to see more. But outside of that, I feel pretty good.
Even Caleb Wilson, I've heard a lot of people are really high on Caleb and feel his game is made for the NBA.
Yeah.
So even Caleb, like it's a deep class, man. Before we end off, right? So I saw Jamal Mashburn said this, and I wanted to ask what your thoughts on this was. He said if Cooper Flagg never reclassified and was in this year's upcoming draft, He would not be the number 1 overall pick. He would be more likely around the 6th pick. Where would you pick Cooper Flagg if he was a part of this class?
I mean, it's laughable that you come out and say that just because, like, it's not like he reclassed to stay in high school another year. He reclassed to be the youngest kid in college to then win college player of the year. Like, it's not like he was just okay in college. He was really good. So I think it'd be a toss up between him and Darren as far as the top player in this draft. But I don't think I would take anybody else ahead
Over
of
at
him.
2, yeah, like he's not falling
Yeah,
past 2 at this
even
point.
AJ. I'm not taking AJ
No,
over Cooper Flag because he's another guy who plays the game the right way. He's gonna be a superstar at one point. I can already see it for the Mavs. So uh, 6th pick. I'm like, who are the 5 other players you're taking over him?
that's a real question. And this is why I said what I said about Boozer, where it's like Boozer could be a better professional than he is college player because we have to come to accept this. Cooper's a cautionary tale. He didn't blow anybody away in college necessarily. He was obviously very good, but it didn't flash on screen to you. The same way Boozer doesn't flash on screen to you. We might have to accept that these Duke guys are going to be better NBA players than they look in college, and that's the way it's going to go for the duration of John Shire's time there. So you gotta like the way they coach, the way they play, the system they're in. That I have to watch more Duke just to kind of get a better feel for that because I was one of those guys that wasn't blown away by Cooper's college tape, but I can see obviously he was a very good player, going to be a very good player. I just didn't know how great. He's obviously already you see what he's doing now in the NBA. So to see what he's doing in the NBA now and to say there's going to be X amount of guys picked over him and you could like math not making any sense. I don't know if there's like a he has something against Duke guys. I don't know what's going on, but that was a weird thing to say on TV. I did see that.
I do think John Shire is changing that narrative of Duke players not being good in the NBA. Because another name we talked about earlier in the show, Conkanipple. Both of them, to see them both going at it, I don't think we've seen a duel like that of rookies. I can't remember the last time we saw that in an actual game. Like, we got shades of that with the Hardaway and Waiters going back and forth, but that was All-Star weekend. In an actual game, 40 pieces for each of them. John Shire, I'm a UNC fan, but John Shire, you doing something right over there in Duke. You doing something right for these players to come, and they're ready from day one in the NBA as rookies at that too. They're not. These are not the reclassified. And I was in the war, and my grandmother died, so I came back at 34 to play because I still had 3 years left. No, these is 19, 20-year-old kids, man. Like, shout out to John Shire, what he's doing over there. Yeah, I know the vibes here at the BME podcast. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Benchmark, we out. Peace.
Peace.